200,000 people. That's how many souls were crammed into Amsterdam by the end of the 17th century. A city built on wooden sticks hammered into a swamp, where 20 different languages echoed through the same street, where a kitchen maid could buy shares in a company and a single flower bulb could cost more than a house on the canal, where 1 in 5 sailors who left the harbour never came home, and yet still they came, hundreds of thousands of them, refugees, dreamers, desperate souls from every corner of Europe, all betting their lives on this strange, stinking, glorious city rising from the water. This is what life was really like in Golden Age Amsterdam. Before we start, if you're listening to these regularly, subscribing helps me keep making them. Drop your city and the time in the comments. End of December now. Curious who's still up late between the holidays. Alright, tonight we're heading back to Amsterdam in the 1650s. But first, get yourself comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows, get that blanket situation sorted. Because where we're going, you're going to want to be settled in. This one's worth it. So, picture this. You're 19 years old. Your name is Willem van der Berg, and you've just walked for 3 days straight from your family's farm in Gelderland. Your feet are bleeding through your only pair of shoes. Your stomach hasn't seen real food since yesterday morning, and now you're standing at the edge of the most extraordinary city you've ever seen in your life. The smell hits you first. Not like home, not like hay and cow manure and bread baking in your mother's oven. No, this smell is something else entirely. Fish. That's the base note. Fresh fish, rotting fish, smoked fish, salted fish. Then there's the canals, and I need you to understand something about the canals. They're not like the pictures you might have in your head. These canals are sewers, open, flowing, green-tinged sewers where everything ends up. Human waste, horse dung, butcher scraps, dead cats. People do their laundry in this water, and somehow, right next to all of that, you can also smell cinnamon, pepper, nutmeg from islands on the other side of the world. Your eyes water, your stomach turns, and somewhere in your exhausted brain you think, this is either going to kill me or make me rich. You choose to believe the second option. The thing about Amsterdam in the 1650s is that it's not really a city in the way you think of cities. It's more like a human hive, a machine made of people. Imagine Manhattan, Tokyo and Dubai all mashed together, shrunk down to fit along a handful of canals, and then set in a world where everyone still thinks tomatoes might be poisonous, and the cure for most diseases involves leeches. This city has gone from 60,000 people to over 200,000 in just 50 years. Think about that for a second. That's more than tripling in size. Whole neighbourhoods that didn't exist when your father was born are now packed with 5-story buildings leaning against each other like drunk friends walking home from the tavern. And the harbour. God, the harbour. You see it before you even reach the city proper. 5,000 ships. Let that number settle in your mind. 5,000 merchant vessels, half of Europe's entire fleet, bobbing in the grey water of the IJ. Their masts look like a forest stripped of leaves, an endless tangle of ropes and wood and canvas stretching out across the water, so thick you almost believe you could walk across them to the other side. These ships carry everything: pepper from Malabar, cinnamon from Ceylon, nutmeg from tiny islands in the east that most Europeans couldn't find on a map if their lives depended on it, Chinese porcelain wrapped in straw, Baltic timber, Brazilian sugar, Russian furs, African ivory. And yes, African people too, though you don't know that yet. You're 19 and you've come to make your fortune. The darker truths of this golden age haven't revealed themselves to you yet. Your first challenge is simple. Don't die before nightfall. You have 3 copper coins in your pocket. Your mother pressed them into your palm before you left, crying like she already knew she'd never see you again. They're not enough to buy a room for the night, but they might be enough to buy some bread and a place on a floor somewhere. Maybe. First, though, you need work, and the docks are hiring. You push your way through the Haarlemmer Port, the Western Gate, and immediately you're swept up in the current of humanity. Workers carrying barrels on their shoulders, women with baskets of fish balanced on their heads, merchants in black coats hurrying past with documents tucked under their arms, children darting between legs, quick as eels, soldiers in matching uniforms probably headed to board one of the VOC ships, and the languages, they wash over you in waves you can't even begin to separate. Dutch, obviously, but also Portuguese, French, German dialects you've never heard, Yiddish, something that might be Spanish, something else that's definitely not from anywhere in Europe. 20 languages on a single street. The pamphlets weren't lying about that. You follow the crowd toward the water, figuring that's where the work will be. The streets get narrower as you go, the buildings leaning closer. Above you, stepped gables reach up toward a sky that's the colour of pewter, threatening rain that never quite arrives. Pulleys jut out from the top floors of every building, ropes dangling down like invitations to climb. You'll learn later that these are for hauling furniture up and down because the staircases are too narrow for anything larger than a person. The Dutch built their houses tall and thin to avoid paying higher taxes on wider frontages. Even in the richest city in the world, people are finding ways to cheat the tax collector. Eventually the buildings give way to open quays, and there it is, the docks. Pure chaos, beautiful, terrifying chaos. Cranes swing overhead, hoisting netted bundles from the holds of ships. Barrels roll across cobblestones. Men shout in every language. Horses strain against their harnesses, pulling carts loaded with goods from the far corners of the earth. And the noise, it never stops. The clang of hammers from the shipyards, the creaking of hulls, the splash of oars, the cry of gulls circling overhead, waiting for scraps. You stand there for a moment, completely overwhelmed, and a man bumps into you hard enough to spin you around. He growls in Dutch, and then he's gone, absorbed back into the human river. You move. The thing about finding work on the docks is that everyone else has the same idea. You're not the first country kid to show up with bleeding feet and empty pockets and a head full of dreams about striking it rich. The VOC, the Dutch East India Company, employs over 1 million people worldwide. 1 million. And most of them start right here, on these docks, loading and unloading the ships that built this empire. But 1 million employees doesn't mean 1 million openings. It means competition. Fierce, desperate, sometimes violent competition. You spend the first hour getting rejected. No, we don't need more loaders. No, we're not hiring deck scrubbers. No, go away. No, no, no. Your stomach growls. Your feet throb. The early autumn wind off the harbour cuts through your thin wool coat like it isn't even there. You start to wonder if maybe your father was right. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe you should have stayed on the farm, married the neighbour's daughter, lived out your days in quiet obscurity like every generation of Vanderbergs before you. And then you meet Hendrik. He's an older man, maybe 40, which in this era means he's practically ancient. He's got a face like a walnut, all wrinkles and weathered skin, and he's missing 3 fingers on his left hand. You don't ask about that. You learn quickly not to ask about missing pieces on the docks. Hendrik is the overseer for a warehouse owned by a merchant family named Van Leeuwenhoek. Not the famous one with the microscopes. Different Van Leeuwenhoeks. The city is full of them. He looks you up and down, taking in your farm boy build, your calloused hands, your desperate eyes. Quote 1, he says, "It's not a question. Yes, sir. You're stupid enough to work for almost nothing?" You hesitate, but only for a second. "Yes, sir." Hendrik grunts. It might be approval, it might be indigestion. It's hard to tell with him. Quote 5. You take it. 6 stuvers a day. That's maybe enough for a shared room in the Jordaan, the workers' district, and one decent meal. Maybe, if you're careful, if you don't get sick, if nothing goes wrong. Nothing ever goes wrong, right? Hendrik gives you directions to a boarding house that he promises won't kill you in your sleep, and you set off through streets that are already starting to fill with evening shadows. The lamplighters are making their rounds, carrying their long poles and their little flames, touching fire to the oil lamps that hang from iron brackets along the canals. The water catches the light and breaks it into 1,000 orange ripples. For just a moment, despite everything, you think the city is beautiful. Then someone empties a chamber pot out a second-story window about 3 feet from your head, and the moment passes. The boarding house is in the Jordaan, just past the Prinsengracht, in a building that looks like it might collapse if you sneeze too hard. The landlady is a woman named Greet, who might be 50 or might be 100, and has a face that suggests she stopped caring about the difference decades ago. She shows you to a room on the 3rd floor that you'll be sharing with 5 other men. There's no furniture except for a pile of straw in one corner and a bucket in the other. Straws for sleeping, Greet says. Buckets for everything else. You figure out which is which. Rent's due every week. You miss a payment, you're out. No exceptions, no excuses, no sob stories. You pay her for the week with your last copper coins and one that Hendrik advanced you against your first day's pay. You're now officially in debt before you've even started working. Welcome to Amsterdam. Your roommates drift in as the night deepens. There's Jan, a sailor who lost his ship to a storm off the coast of Africa and has been trying to get on another crew ever since. There's Peter and his brother Klaas, carpenters from Leiden who came here for work and haven't found any yet. There's an old man named Friedrich who doesn't speak Dutch very well, and mostly just sits in the corner muttering to himself in German. And there's a boy who can't be more than 15, who doesn't give his name and won't meet anyone's eyes. 6 men, 1 pile of straw, 1 bucket. You find a spot near the wall, curl up with your coat as a pillow, and try to ignore the sounds of the city seeping in through the cracks in the walls, shouting from a tavern somewhere nearby, the clop of hooves on cobblestones, singing, off-key, in a language you don't recognize, a baby crying, a dog barking, the endless, restless pulse of 200,000 people living on top of each other. Nothing like home, nothing like the silence of the farm at night, where the biggest sound was the wind in the wheat fields and your father's snoring through the thin walls. But this is your life now. Tomorrow you start work. Tomorrow the real adventure begins. And as you drift off, the smell of the city still filling your nose, you make yourself a promise. You're going to survive this place. You're going to thrive. Someday, somehow, you're going to be one of those merchants in black coats, hurrying past with important documents. Someday you're going to have a house with a stepped gable and a pulley system for your furniture and servants to empty the chamber pots for you. Someday. But for now, you sleep. The straw itches against your cheek. Someone near you is snoring. The bucket smells exactly like you'd expect a bucket to smell. And outside, Amsterdam keeps moving, keeps breathing. keeps churning forward into a future you can't even begin to imagine. This is where your story begins, not with wealth, not with glory, not with any of the things the pamphlets promised, just a pile of straw, a bucket, and a job that starts before sunrise. Which, when you think about it, isn't that different from how most great stories start? At the very bottom, looking up, with nothing to lose and everything to fight for. Unlike you, lying in your soft bed right now, Willem has no idea what tomorrow will bring. No idea that this city will change him in ways he can't predict. No idea about the people he'll meet, the things he'll see, the moments of wonder and horror that are waiting for him in the days ahead. But that's the thing about Amsterdam in the 1650s. Nobody knows what's coming next. That's what makes it the most exciting place on earth. And right now, as you lie there in that pile of straw, you have no way of knowing that in this very city, at this very moment, a painter named Rembrandt is working by candlelight in his studio. That merchants are finalising deals that will send ships halfway around the world. That somewhere in a garden outside the city walls, a tulip bulb is growing that will someday sell for more money than you'll earn in 20 years of work. You don't know that the plague will sweep through these crowded streets again, that the canals you walked along today will freeze solid in winter, that empires will rise and fall while you're hauling crates on the docks. All you know is that you're tired, that your feet hurt, that tomorrow is going to be the hardest day of your life and the day after that will probably be harder still. But you're here, in Amsterdam, the centre of the world, and that has to count for something. The last thing you hear before sleep takes you is the sound of church bells somewhere in the distance, marking the hour, counting the time, reminding everyone within earshot that in this city every moment matters. Every second is an opportunity. Every heartbeat could be the one that changes everything. Your breathing slows, your muscles finally relax, and the city holds you. Just one more dreamer among 200,000 as the night deepens over Amsterdam. Someone kicks your foot. Hard. Quote. 8. You open your eyes to darkness. Complete darkness. For a second you don't know where you are. Then the smell hits you and everything comes rushing back. The straw, the bucket, Amsterdam. It's Hendrik. How he got into the boarding house you have no idea. But there he is, silhouette barely visible in the pre-dawn grey, and he's not asking twice. You stumble to your feet. Your whole body screams in protest. 3 days of walking, followed by a night on a pile of straw that might as well have been bare floor. Every muscle feels like someone's been at it with a hammer. Quote 9. Hendrik says, and he's already heading for the stairs. You move. Outside, the city is a different creature in the dark. The canals are black mirrors reflecting nothing. The only light comes from a few windows where bakers are already starting their fires. The air is cold and damp and carries that same complicated smell from yesterday, though somehow worse in the darkness. Like the night concentrated it. Hendrik walks fast for a man missing 3 fingers. You have to half jog to keep up. He doesn't talk, doesn't explain where you're going or what you'll be doing. Just walks, boots clicking on the cobblestones, breath coming out in little clouds that disappear into the gloom. The docks are already alive when you arrive. That surprises you. You figured you'd be among the first. But no. Dozens of men are already swarming the quays, their lanterns bobbing like fireflies in the dark. You can hear them before you can see them. The grunt of effort, the thud of heavy things being moved, the creak of ropes and pulleys, and underneath it all, the constant slap of water against wood. Quote 10. Hendrik says, pointing toward a ship that's little more than a shadow against the slightly lighter sky. She came in last night from Batavia. 8 months at sea. Everything in her hold needs to come out before noon. 8 months. You try to wrap your head around that. 8 months on a wooden ship crossing oceans you've only heard about in stories. 8 months of eating whatever didn't rot. Drinking water that probably tasted like the barrel it came from. Praying to God that the next storm wouldn't be the one that sent you to the bottom. And now you're going to unload what they brought back. Find a man named Garrett. He'll tell you what to do. Don't drop anything. Don't break anything. Don't talk unless someone asks you a question. And for God's sake, stay out of the way of the experienced men. They'll shove you in the harbour just for fun. Then Hendrik's gone, swallowed by the darkness, probably off to ruin some other new workers' morning. You find Garrett. He's a massive guy, built like a barrel himself, with a beard that looks like it hasn't been trimmed since the last decade. He takes one look at you and laughs. Another one. They're sending me babies now. He shakes his head, still chuckling. All right, baby. Grab that rope. Pull when I say pull. Stop when I say stop. You think you can handle that? You can handle that. What follows is the longest morning of your entire life. The cargo comes up from the hold in nets, swinging out over the water on ropes thick as your wrist. Pepper in burlap sacks, cinnamon in wooden crates, bolts of fabric wrapped in oilcloth, porcelain packed so carefully in straw that you're terrified to touch it. Every piece of it travelled halfway around the world to get here. Every piece of it is worth more than you'll make in a year, and your job is to catch it, guide it down, stack it on the quay without breaking it or yourself. The first hour you think you're going to die. Your arms burn, your back screams, the ropes tear at your palms until they're raw and bleeding. The experienced workers move like they've been doing this their whole lives, which most of them have. They don't even seem to notice the weight. You notice. God, you notice. But you don't complain. You don't slow down. You keep pulling when Garrett says pull, and stopping when he says stop. And slowly, so slowly, you start to figure out the rhythm of it. Not bad for a baby, Garrett says around mid-morning, which is probably the closest thing to a compliment you're going to get. The sun's up now, such as it is, grey light filtering through grey clouds over grey water, but at least you can see, and what you see is chaos in motion. The Zealandia is just one ship among dozens being unloaded right now. The quay stretches in both directions, packed with crates and barrels and sacks, with workers weaving between them like ants in a colony. Carts roll past, pulled by horses that look almost as tired as you feel. Merchants stand in clusters, pointing and arguing and scribbling in their ledgers. Money is being made and lost with every breath, and the smell. Now that the sun's warming things up, you can really appreciate the full bouquet. Fish from the nearby market, spices from the cargo, tar from the ships, sweat from the workers, horse manure from the streets, and underneath it all, always, the canals. That sweet, rotting, unforgettable smell of the canals. Quote 16. Garrett says during a brief pause in the work. Quote 17. He says it casually, like he's talking about the weather. Out of how many, you ask? 200. 40 dead before we even reach port. Then we spent 6 months trading, loading cargo, trying not to die of diseases we'd never heard of. Then 7 months back. Lost another 30. He shrugs. Made it home with barely enough crew to work the sails. You do the math in your head. 70 dead out of 200. More than a third. Why'd you do it again? Garrett laughs, but there's no humour in it. Quote 22. He picks up another rope. Quote 23. You work. Sometime around noon, a man falls. You don't see it happen. You just hear the shout, then the splash, then the commotion. One of the workers on a ship 2 berths down missed his footing on a wet deck and went straight into the harbour. They fish him out pretty quick. He's alive, coughing up canal water that's probably 50% sewage, but he's done for the day. Maybe longer if he gets sick from what he swallowed. Quote 24 says a worker next to you, a young guy maybe a few years older than you with a scar that runs from his eyebrow to his chin. Quote 25. Quote 26. He grins. Quote 27. His name is Joost. He's from Friesland, came to Amsterdam 2 years ago, worked his way up from rope hauler to cargo handler. Compared to you, he's practically a veteran, he says. He pauses. Joost just points to his scar. Quote 32. He goes back to work like he just told you about what he had for breakfast. That's the thing about this place you're starting to realise. Everyone has a story like that. Everyone has lost someone, seen something, survived something that should have killed them. Death is so common here it's barely worth mentioning. The ships in this harbour, the ships that built this city's fortune, they run on human bodies as much as they run on wind and wood. 1 in 5 never comes home. That's the price of cinnamon in your porridge. That's the cost of pepper on your meat. Your soft bed right now, with its clean sheets and its safety, exists in part because men like Joost sailed to the other side of the world, and some of them didn't make it back. Strange thing to think about. Strange thing to know. The afternoon is worse than the morning, if that's possible. Your hands have gone past pain into something else, something numb and distant. Your shoulders feel like they might actually detach from your body. But the cargo keeps coming up, net after net, crate after crate, and you keep catching and guiding and stacking. At some point you stop thinking. Your body just does what it's learned to do. Pull when they say pull. Stop when they say stop. Don't drop anything. Don't break anything. Don't fall in the harbour. The sun starts to sink what little of it there was. The grey light turns greyer, then starts to fade into blue and purple at the edges. Finally, someone blows a horn and Gerrit yells something about that being enough, and your arms stop moving and you just stand there, swaying slightly, wondering if you'll ever feel normal again. You made it through day 1, Juice says, appearing beside you. Most don't. Some run off before lunch, some pass out. Saw one guy cry so hard they had to carry him away. You want to say something tough, something that shows you're not some soft farm boy who can't handle real work. But all that comes out is a kind of grunt. Juiced laughs and slaps you on the back, which almost knocks you over. Come on, I'll buy you a beer. You earned it. The tavern he takes you to is a dark, low-ceilinged place near the Lastage, the neighbourhood where the shipyards are. It smells like sweat and smoke and spilled beer, and it's packed with men who look exactly as wrecked as you feel. Joost knows everyone. Nods and greetings as you push through to a table in the corner. The beer is thin and sour, nothing like what your father brewed back home, but it's cold and wet, and after a day like today, it might as well be the finest wine in Amsterdam. So, Joost says, what's your plan? You gonna do this forever? You haven't really thought about it. You just needed to survive today. But he's looking at you like he expects an answer. I want to make something of myself, you say. Have my own business, maybe. House on the canal. You know, the dream. Juice nods like he's heard this before. He probably has, 1,000 times, from 1,000 farm boys just like you. Quote 40. He takes a long drink. Quote 41. Quote 42. Quote 43. He leans back, studying you with an expression you can't quite read. You seem smart enough, don't waste that. Keep your eyes open, listen, learn. This city rewards people who pay attention. You file that away. Good advice, probably. Though right now the only thing your brain can focus on is the beer in front of you, and the fact that you have to do this all again tomorrow. Outside, the bells of the Oud Kerk start ringing. counting the hours, the evening deepening around this strange, impossible city. You think about your mother back on the farm, probably praying for you right now. You think about your father, who said you'd be home within a month, tail between your legs. You think about all the people you passed today, the merchants and the workers and the sailors, each one of them with their own story, their own dream, their own reason for being here. 200,000 people, and you're one of them now. Tomorrow you'll wake up before dawn again. You'll haul cargo until your body begs for mercy. You'll watch ships come and go from places you can barely imagine. You'll learn a little more about how this city works, how money flows through it like water through the canals. But tonight, you drink your beer. You listen to Yus tell stories about storms and ports and the strange things he saw on the other side of the world. You let yourself feel, for just a moment, like maybe you belong here after all. The candles on the table flicker. The noise of the tavern wraps around you like a blanket, and somewhere out in the harbour, another ship is setting sail, carrying another 200 souls toward whatever fate awaits them. That's Amsterdam. You fall asleep at the table before the second beer is empty. Joost wakes you, helps you stumble back to the boarding house, deposits you on your pile of straw. The last thing you hear is his voice, somewhere above you in the darkness. Tomorrow comes whether you're ready or not. And somehow, despite everything, despite the pain and the exhaustion and the stench of the canals and the weight of 1,000 crates still pressing down on your shoulders, you smile. You made it through day one. Only God knows how many more to go. 3 weeks in, and you've learned a few things. You've learned that your body can take more punishment than you ever thought possible. Those first days on the docks, you were certain something inside you would just give out, snap like a rope under too much strain. But it didn't. Your hands developed calluses thick as shoe leather. Your shoulders stopped screaming and started just grumbling. Your legs figured out how to carry you through 14-hour days without collapsing. You've also learned that the straw in your boarding house has fleas. This is not information you wanted, but now you have it. Little red bites running up your arms, across your chest, down your legs. Everyone in the room has them. Friedrich, the old German, scratches in his sleep so loudly it sounds like someone sawing wood. The boy who never gives his name has them worst of all. Angry welts that he picks at until they bleed. Greet your landlady, just shrugs when you mention it. You want rooms without fleas? Go live on the Herengracht with the merchants. She laughs at her own joke, a sound like a goose being strangled. Fleas are free. Complaining costs extra. So you scratch. Everyone scratches. It's just part of life now. Mornings start before the sun, same as always. You've gotten used to Hendrik's boot against your foot, though lately you've been waking up on your own, some internal clock adjusting to this new rhythm. Up, dress, stumble down the creaking stairs, out into the dark streets. The Jordan is different in the early hours, quieter but not silent. You can hear babies crying behind closed doors, the clatter of someone already at work in a workshop, a drunk singing to himself as he weaves home from wherever he spent the night, and always, always, the sound of the city waking up around you. Roosters that shouldn't exist in a place like this but somehow do. Dogs barking at nothing. The first carts of the day rolling over cobblestones. You know the streets now. That was one of the first things you had to learn. The Jordan is a maze, streets running at odd angles, cutting back on themselves, dead-ending without warning. Built on top of old drainage ditches, Juice told you, which is why nothing makes sense. The city just grew over the old polder landscape like a scab over a wound, and the scars of the original land still show through. Your route to the docks takes you past the Noordermarkt, the northern market, which is just starting to come alive when you pass through. Farmers setting up their stalls in the shadow of the Noorderkerk, the church that serves the poor of this district. Cabbages and turnips piled high, eggs in baskets, butter in wooden moulds, the smell of fresh bread from the bakers who've been at work since midnight. You can't afford any of it. Not yet. Breakfast is a hunk of yesterday's bread that you bought for a single do-it from a woman who sells the stuff too stale for anyone else to want. You eat it as you walk, washing it down with water from the pump near the Prinsengracht, trying not to think too hard about what might be in that water. Your stomach has also adjusted, by the way. Those first few days, everything in Amsterdam made you sick. The water, the air, the cheap food from street vendors. You spent more time crouched over the bucket in your room than you'd care to remember. But now your gut has made peace with this place. Mostly. The work hasn't gotten easier exactly, but it's gotten more familiar. You know the rhythms now, know which foreman will work you until you drop and which ones pace things out. Know how to read the loading manifests, even though you're not supposed to. Know the difference between cargo that's fragile and cargo that can take some bumps. Know which ships just arrived and which ones are about to leave. The Zealandia sailed out last week. You watched her go, sails catching the morning wind, heading back toward the other side of the world with a fresh crew of 200 men. Some of them were first-timers, young guys who just arrived in Amsterdam with the same dreams you had. You thought about waving but didn't. They wouldn't have seen you anyway. 1 in 5 won't come back. That's still the number that sticks in your head. 40 men on that ship are going to die before they see this harbour again. Maybe more, and the rest will come home changed, like Gerrit, like Joost, carrying scars on their bodies and stranger ones on their souls. You've decided you're never getting on one of those ships. Whatever fortune you make, you'll make it on solid ground. Evenings are when the Jordan really comes alive. The work ends around sunset, depending on the day, and then the streets fill up with people who've been labouring since dawn and now have a few hours to themselves before sleep takes them. The taverns overflow. Music spills out of open doors. Couples walk arm in arm along the smaller canals, pretending for a moment that this is a romantic place and not a sewer with delusions of grandeur. You've started eating dinner at a cookshop on the Elandsgracht, a narrow place run by a woman named Bets, who makes something she calls hutspot. That's really just whatever vegetables she could find that day boiled until they give up and turn into mush. Sometimes there's meat in it. You've learned not to ask what kind. It costs 3 stuvers for a bowl big enough to fill you up, and that's what matters. Bets is maybe 40, with arms like a dock worker and a voice that could cut through a storm. She knows everyone. Everyone knows her. And somehow, in the few weeks you've been coming to her shop, she's decided to take an interest in you. Quote, 48. She calls you, same as everyone else. Quote, 49. Quote, 50. Quote, 51. She ladles extra hutspot into your bowl, slopping it over the edges. Quote, 52. The other regulars at Bet's place have become something like friends. There's old Martin, who used to be a ship's carpenter until his hands started shaking too badly to hold tools. There's a woman named Lisbeth who sells fish at the Vismarkt and always smells faintly of herring no matter how many times she washes. There's a group of German immigrants who stick together and speak their own language and drink more than they eat. They're not family. You have family back in Gelderland probably still wondering if you're alive, but there's something. A community forged by the shared experience of being poor in the richest city in the world. The gap between rich and poor here is something you still can't quite wrap your head around. On your way to the docks, you walk along the Prinsengracht, past the narrow houses of the Jordaan, where families of 6 crowd into single rooms. But if you cross the canal, You're on the Kaisersgracht, the Emperor's Canal, where the merchant houses rise 4 and 5 stories tall, stone facades instead of simple brick, glass windows with actual curtains behind them, servants coming and going through side entrances. You saw inside one of those houses once, just a glimpse through an open door. Paintings on the walls, actual paintings. Tiles on the floor that probably cost more than you make in a month. A chandelier with what looked like 100 candles, burning in the middle of the day like money meant nothing at all. The people who live in those houses got their wealth from the same docks where you break your back, the same ships, the same cargo. They just happen to own things instead of carry them. It's not fair. Everyone knows it's not fair, but it's how the world works here and everywhere else. At least in Amsterdam you can look at those houses. At least here there's a chance, however small, that someday you might live in one yourself. Back on the farm you knew exactly what your life would be from the day you were born until the day you died. Here, everything is possible, even if most of what's possible is just dying in a different way. Tonight Joost finds you at Bet's place. "He's got news," he says, sliding onto the bench across from you. You look at him, spoon halfway to your mouth. He grins. Quote 57. "You can, actually. Your mother taught you. She'd been a servant in a merchant's house before she married your father, and she'd learned letters and figures there. She passed them on to you, sitting by candlelight on winter evenings, tracing letters in the soot from the fireplace. I can read. Then go see a man named Cornelis at the Van Leyden warehouse tomorrow after the morning shift. Tell him Joost sent you. He steals a piece of bread from your plate. If you get the job, you owe me a beer. If you don't, I still tried, and you still owe me a beer." That night, you can't sleep. The fleas are the same as always. Friedrich is snoring. The boy is scratching. The bucket smells. None of that is different. But your mind won't stop racing. Warehouse work, inventory, numbers, indoor work where rain doesn't soak you and cold doesn't freeze you, and cargo doesn't threaten to crush you every time you look away. It's not a canal house. It's not a fortune, but it's something. You think about your mother again. Wonder what she'd say if she could see you now. Probably something about patience, about taking opportunities when they come, about how God helps those who help themselves, which was her answer to pretty much every question you ever asked her. You wonder if she got your letter. You sent one 2 weeks ago, paid a scribe near the Oude Kerk to write it, because your own handwriting is barely legible. Told her you were alive, told her you had work, told her not to worry, which was a lie, but the kind of lie children tell their mothers since the beginning of time. Outside, the city breathes. Someone's fighting in the street 3 houses down, shouting in what might be French, might be something else. A bottle breaks, then silence followed by laughter. Just drunks, probably. Happens every night. The canals sit dark and still beneath your window, that one small window that lets in a sliver of sky when the clouds part. You can't see the water from here, but you can smell it. That's never going to change. The whole city smells like the canals, like life and death and everything in between, mixed together and left to ferment in the sun. But somehow, lying there on your pile of straw, scratching at your flea bites, thinking about tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that, you feel something you haven't felt since you left home. Hope. Stupid, maybe. Probably. This city eats dreamers for breakfast and spits out their bones. Joost told you that once, and he was only half joking. But you can't help it. Something in your chest is refusing to give up, refuses to accept that this is all there is. You think about the lime trees you pass every morning on your way to work. Someone told you the city planted them to cover the smell of the canals, as if a few trees could mask what 200,000 people leave behind every day. But they try. The trees try. And in the spring when they bloom, apparently the whole city smells like flowers for a few weeks. Something to look forward to. You think about the women you see washing clothes in the canals, even though everyone knows that water is filthy. They have these little floating platforms they work from, and they scrub and scrub until their hands are raw, and somehow the clothes come out cleaner than they went in. That's a kind of faith, isn't it? Believing that if you just work hard enough, something good will come of it, even when all the evidence says otherwise. You think about the Norderkirk, the church where you've started going on Sundays, not because you're particularly religious, but because it's warm and dry and nobody asks questions. The minister there talks about grace and redemption and the life to come, and sometimes you believe him. The pews are full of people who look like you, people who work with their hands and wear their only set of clothes and smell like whatever they spent the week doing. The fancy churches are somewhere else, in the richer parts of the city. This church is for the rest of you. You think about the letter you sent your mother, and you wonder if you should send another one. Tell her about the opportunity with the warehouse. Tell her things are getting better. Tell her you're not coming home, not yet, maybe not ever. Would that break her heart or set it free? Probably both. That's how mothers work. The fleas are still biting. Friedrich is still snoring. The boy in the corner is still a mystery, still silent, still looking at the world with eyes that have seen too much for someone so young. But you're going to sleep anyway, because tomorrow you're going to talk to this Cornelis tomorrow. You're going to get that warehouse job. You're going to learn whatever there is to learn, make yourself valuable, find the next opportunity and the one after that. This city rewards people who pay attention. That's what Just said, and you've been paying attention every single day. The streets outside are finally quieting down. The drunks have found their beds or their ditches. The fighters have made peace or passed out. Even the dogs have stopped barking, satisfied that whatever threats they were warning against have moved on for the night. Somewhere across the city, in one of those grand houses on the Herengracht, a merchant is probably looking over his accounts by candlelight, counting the money that flowed through his hands today, planning tomorrow's deals, not thinking at all about the men who hauled his cargo from ship to warehouse, the men whose labour makes his lifestyle possible. That's fine. He doesn't have to think about you. But someday, maybe, he'll have to deal with you, as an equal, as a partner, as someone who clawed his way up from a pile of straw in the Jordan to something better. That's the dream. That's always the dream. Your eyes finally start to close. The sounds of the Jordan fade into a kind of rhythm, familiar now, almost comforting in its chaos. Tomorrow is coming, and for the first time since you arrived, you're actually looking forward to it. Cornelis van Leyden is not what you expected. You pictured someone like the merchants you see on the streets. Black coat, tall hat, expression that says the world owes him money and he intends to collect. But Cornelis is small, barely taller than your shoulder, with ink-stained fingers and spectacles perched on a nose that looks like it's been broken at least twice. He's also talking before you even finish introducing yourself. Just sent you. Yes, he mentioned. Said you can read. Can you read? Don't just tell me yes, show me. He shoves a piece of paper into your hands. Read that. Out loud. Now. The paper is a cargo manifest. Lists of goods with numbers beside them. Pepper, 47 barrels. Nutmeg, 12 crates. Cinnamon, 31 bundles. You read it all, stumbling only once over a word you don't recognise, Cornelis says impatiently. Quote, 64. Quote, 65. Quote, 66. Quote, 67. Quote, 68. That takes you longer. You have to count in your head, and you're pretty sure Cornelis is judging every second that passes. 282. Close enough. It's 282. You're hired. Just like that. No discussion of pay, no questions about where you're from or what experience you have. You're hired because you can read an ad, and that apparently is enough. You start tomorrow. Be here at dawn. You'll shadow old Paulus for a week, learn how we track inventory. After that, you're on your own. Cornelis is already turning away, shuffling toward a desk piled so high with papers that you can barely see the wood underneath. Don't steal. Don't lie about the numbers. Don't get drunk on duty. Those are the only rules that matter. You walk out of the warehouse in a daze. The pay, it turns out, is almost double what you made on the docks. Juiced laughs when you tell him, slaps you on the back, demands his beer. You buy him two. You can afford it now. Told you this city rewards people who pay attention, he says, foam on his upper lip. Now don't forget about us when you're rich and living on the Herengracht. You won't. You know that. But for the first time, the Herengracht doesn't seem quite as impossible as it did before. The Van Leiden warehouse sits on Kattenburg, one of the islands built for the VOC. Man-made land dredged up from the harbour floor and held in place by thousands of wooden pilings. The whole neighbourhood shakes when heavy carts roll past. You're standing on something that shouldn't exist, in a building full of things from the other side of the world. Nothing about this place is natural. All of it is human stubbornness refusing to accept what should be impossible. Old Paulus is a thin man with a cough that never quite goes away and hands that shake slightly when he writes. He's been with the Van Leidens for 30 years, worked his way up from dockloader just like you. Quote 75, he tells you on that first day. Quote 76. You think about that a lot over the next few weeks. The job itself isn't hard, not physically anyway. You walk through the warehouse with a ledger, counting crates and barrels, making sure what's actually here matches what's supposed to be here. Discrepancies get reported to Cornelis. Big discrepancies mean someone's stealing. Small ones usually mean someone can't count. But the mental work is different from anything you've done before. You have to concentrate, pay attention to details, remember which shipment came from where, which merchant ordered what, which goods are headed out tomorrow and which are staying put. It's like learning a new language, except the words are numbers and the grammar is commerce. You start to understand how money moves through this city. It's not just about ships and cargo. There's a whole invisible system underneath. Debts and credits and promises and contracts. A merchant in Amsterdam can buy pepper that's still growing on a vine in Java, sell it to a buyer in Hamburg before it ever reaches the harbour, and profit from the entire transaction without touching a single peppercorn. It's like magic, except it's not. It's just paper, agreements, trust that everyone will do what they promised. When the trust breaks down, people lose everything. When it holds, fortunes get made. Cornelis takes you to the Beurs once, about a month into your new job, the Amsterdam Exchange. You've heard about it, everyone has, but nothing prepares you for actually seeing it. A massive courtyard surrounded by covered arcades, packed with hundreds of men, all of them shouting. The noise hits you like a physical force. You can't hear yourself think, can't make out individual words, just a wall of sound that rises and falls like waves against a ship. Quote 77, Cornelis says, raising his voice to be heard. Quote 78. Men in black coats cluster in groups, gesturing wildly, scribbling in notebooks. Money changes hands so fast you can barely follow it. Paper passes from person to person, each exchange creating or destroying wealth in the time it takes to blink. Quote 79. Cornelis points to a particularly frantic cluster near the centre. Quote Darcy 80. The VOC, the Dutch East India Company, the company whose ships you used to unload, whose cargo you now count in the warehouse. You knew they were big. You didn't realise they were this big. 1 million employees worldwide, Garrett told you. Ships on every ocean. Trading posts on islands you can't even pronounce. And here, in this courtyard, men are buying and selling pieces of it like it's cheese at the market. What happens if the price goes down? Cornelis shrugs. Some people lose money. Some people lose everything. That's the game. He steers you toward another cluster, this one smaller, with men who look slightly less respectable. Now, that over there, that's where it gets interesting. They're not trading VOC shares, they're trading flowers, tulips specifically, bulbs that won't bloom until spring, being bought and sold for prices that make your head spin. You hear someone mention 1,000 guilders for a flower, a single flower that doesn't even exist yet. It's madness, Cornelis says, but he's grinning. Quote 85. Quote 86. Cornelis looks at you with something that might be respect. Quote 87. You watch the tulip traders for a while longer. One of them is clutching a piece of paper like it's a newborn child, tears actually running down his face. He just sold something, or bought something. Either way, his whole life has changed in the last 30 seconds, and everyone around him is either celebrating or plotting how to do the same thing tomorrow. A man next to you, someone you don't know, nudges your elbow. Quote. Date. Quote. 89. Quote. 90. He spreads his hands like he's performing a miracle. I bought a Semper Augustus last month for 2,000 guilders. Sold it this morning for 4,000. I never even saw the damn flower. 4,000 guilders. That number bounces around your skull like a stone in an empty bucket. You could work in the warehouse for 15 years and not make 4,000 guilders. What if you can't sell it? The man's smile flickers for just a second. Quote, 93. His smile comes back, wider now. Quote, 94. You think about that, getting in early, being smart, seeing opportunities. Then you think about Just's scar, running from his eyebrow to his chin, about Gerrit's missing fingers, about the Zealandia sailing away with 200 men, 40 of whom will never come home. That's real. That's something you can understand. This tulip thing, with its promises and its paper and its money that appears from nowhere, feels like fog. Beautiful, maybe. But when you reach out to grab it, there's nothing there. Good luck, you tell the man, and you mean it. He's going to need it. You think about those tulip traders sometimes lying in your boarding house at night. The straw still has fleas, but you've been able to afford a better blanket, and Greet has started giving you the spot nearest the window since you always pay on time. 1,000 guilders for a flower bulb. That's more than you'd make in 3 years of warehouse work. More than Just will make in 5 years on the docks. Enough to buy a small house, hire servants, never work again. And people are paying it. Gladly. Eagerly. Fighting over the chance to pay even more next week. Something about it feels wrong to you, though you can't quite explain why. Maybe it's because you know where real money comes from labour, from ships crossing oceans, from men like Gerrit losing fingers and Just earning scars. Real money costs something. This tulip money feels like it costs nothing, like it's just appearing out of thin air, multiplying itself, feeding on hope and greed. But what do you know? You're a farm boy from Gelderland who got lucky with a warehouse job. These men in the burrs have been doing this for years. They must know something you don't, right? The warehouse teaches you other things too. You learn the names of ports you've never heard of. Batavia, where half the Vosi sailors catch fevers they never recover from. Goa, where the Portuguese tried to hold on to their spice monopoly and failed. Ceylon, where cinnamon grows on trees like apples grow in Gelderland. Malacca, a name that sounds like music and apparently smells like money. You learn the difference between good pepper and great pepper, how to spot weevils in nutmeg, how to tell if someone's been watering down the cargo to increase its weight. The tricks of the trade, Paulus calls them. Every merchant knows them. Every merchant uses them when they think they can get away with it. You learn about where the goods actually come from, not just the ports and the countries, but the people. The hands that picked the pepper, the backs that carried the cinnamon, the labour that turned raw materials into the luxury goods filling these crates. Some of that labour was paid. A lot of it wasn't. There's a whole system you never knew about before coming here. Ships that sail to Africa, then to the Americas, then back to Amsterdam. The first leg carries trade goods. The second leg carries people. The third leg carries sugar and tobacco and cotton grown by those same people who can never go home. The Van Leidens aren't directly involved in that trade. They deal in spices mostly and cloth, and sometimes porcelain. But you see the manifest from other companies. The careful language that describes human beings as cargo. The numbers that represent not barrels or crates but lives. Paulus was right. Every number represents something real. Some nights that keeps you awake. Other nights you're too tired to think about it. The city keeps moving. The ships keep sailing. The money keeps changing hands in the Boers, and you keep doing your job, counting crates, recording numbers, trying to learn everything you can about how this vast machine works. Because here's the thing you've figured out after 2 months in Amsterdam. Knowing things is power. The merchants who get rich aren't the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who know the most, who see opportunities before anyone else, who understand how all the pieces fit together. You're not there yet, not even close. But every day, you learn a little more. The numbers become patterns, the patterns become knowledge, and knowledge in this city can be traded for anything. Your mother would be proud or horrified, probably both. Lying in your bed tonight, you can hear the city winding down outside your window, the last of the drunks making their way home, a dog barking once, twice, then falling silent, the creak of old buildings settling into themselves. Not so different from the farm at night if you close your eyes. If you ignore the smell and the noise and the constant knowledge that 200,000 people are breathing the same air, dreaming their own dreams, fighting their own fights, you're one of them now, truly. Not a visitor anymore, not a newcomer. One of the 200,000. Tomorrow there's more cargo to count, more numbers to record, more pieces of the puzzle to fit into place. But tonight, you rest. The blanket is warm, the fleas have quieted down, and somewhere out there, in the darkness, ships are crossing oceans to bring more goods to the warehouses, more money to the Boers, more stories to this strange and wonderful city. You're part of something now, something bigger than yourself. That thought carries you into sleep. Somewhere in the city a church bell rings, once, twice, marking the hour, and in the Boers, even now, even in the darkness, men are probably dreaming about tulips, about fortunes waiting to be made, about pieces of paper that could change everything. Let them dream. You've got real work to do in the morning. Sundays are strange. After weeks of waking before dawn, your body doesn't know what to do with itself when there's nowhere to be. You lie on your straw pile, eyes open in the grey morning light, listening to Friedrich snore and the boy shift restlessly in his corner, and you think, now what? Church. First. The Noorderkerk. same as always. The minister talks about patience and faith and trusting in God's plan. You listen with half an ear, more interested in the faces around you. Workers like yourself, mostly. Servants in their one good set of clothes. A few families with children who fidget through the sermon. Everyone looking tired. Everyone looking like they could use an extra day of rest instead of sitting on hard wooden pews. After the service, you have the whole day ahead of you. No cargo to count. No Cornelis demanding numbers. No Paulus coughing his way through explanations of shipping routes. You decide to walk, not with any destination in mind, just walking, seeing what there is to see. You've been in Amsterdam for almost 3 months now, but most of that time you've moved through the same handful of streets. Boarding house to warehouse, warehouse to Bet's cook shop back to boarding house. The city is so much bigger than that. Your feet take you east toward the old part of town, where the buildings press even closer together and the streets twist in ways that make no sense at all. This was Amsterdam before the expansion, before the ring of grand canals, before the VOC and the merchants and the wealth that rebuilt everything. The Oude Kerk rises up above the rooftops, its tower catching the pale morning sun. You've seen it from a distance plenty of times, but never up close. It's massive, ancient. The stones at its base look like they've been there since before anyone can remember, and right next to it, literally in its shadow, is something else entirely. Women. Sitting in windows and doorways, some of them dressed in ways that don't leave much to imagine, others just watching the street with bored expressions. A few call out to men passing by. One of them whistles at you. You keep walking, face burning. Nobody told you about this part of the city. Or maybe they did and you weren't listening. Either way, it makes a certain kind of sense. Where there's money, there's everything money can buy. And in Amsterdam, everything is for sale. The street opens up into a square, and suddenly you can smell the sea. Not the canals, not that rotting, complicated smell you've gotten used to. This is different. Salt and fish and cold water. The Vismarkt, the fish market. You've heard about it but never been. It's already busy, even this early. Boats cluster along the quay, some of them still being unloaded. Barges that must have set out before dawn, heavy with the night's catch. Men in rubber aprons haul baskets of silver bodies up onto the stones. Women with scales and knives wait to receive them. Herring mostly. Mountains of herring. The Dutch have been eating herring for centuries, Jus told you once. Built their whole empire on it, really. The salted fish trade paid for the first ships, and the ships paid for everything else. Before pepper and nutmeg and Chinese porcelain, there was herring. You buy one from a woman near the edge of the market. She guts it in front of you with a knife that moves so fast you can barely follow, drops it in a paper cone with some chopped onion, and hands it over. 3 stuvers. You eat it right there, standing in the crowd, tasting salt and sea and something that connects this moment to 1,000 years of fishermen heading out into cold waters to feed the people they left behind. It's good. Really good. Your soft bed and your refrigerator full of whatever you want, anytime you want it. That's something Willem can't even imagine. But this herring, fresh from the sea, eaten standing in a market that's been here longer than anyone can remember, this is real too. Real in a way that maybe gets lost somewhere along the way to where you are now. The market sprawls in all directions. Not just fish, though there's plenty of that. Vegetables piled high. Cheese in wheels so big it takes 2 men to lift them. Bread from a dozen different bakers. Butter in wooden moulds stamped with patterns. Eggs stacked carefully in baskets. Everything the city needs to feed itself, all in one place. You wander through it slowly, just watching. The haggling, the shouting, the deals being made, money changing hands, goods finding their way to the people who need them. It's not so different from the warehouse work, really, just louder and wetter and with more fish guts on the ground. A woman catches your eye, not like the women near the Oud Kirk. This one is working, carrying a basket of cabbages almost as big as she is, threading her way through the crowd with practiced ease. Dark hair pinned up under a white cap, strong arms, a face that's pretty in a practical sort of way. She catches you staring and raises an eyebrow. You look away too fast, embarrassed, but she doesn't. She stops right next to you, adjusts her basket and says, quote 96, quote, you blink, quote 97, quote 98, quote. She shifts the basket to her other hip. Quote 99. Word travels fast, apparently, even among the vegetable sellers. Quote 100. You say, because you can't think of anything else, Anna? She doesn't offer a hand, probably because she dropped the cabbages. You always wander the market looking lost, Willem, or is today special? There's something in her voice that makes you want to laugh. Not mean, exactly, just direct, like she's already decided you're worth talking to and is waiting to see if she's right. It's my first time here, you admit. Sundays are the only day I get to explore. 3 months in Amsterdam and you've never seen the Bismarck? She shakes her head, but she's smiling now. Quote 106. Quote 107. Quote 8. She starts walking, and without really meaning to, you fall into step beside her. Quote 109. That's a strange thing to say. You tell her so. My father came here 20 years ago from Antwerp, she says, still walking. Had nothing. Worked himself half to death building the vegetable business. Now he's got a house and a wife and 3 daughters and more money than he ever dreamed of. She pauses, and he's miserable. Works every day. Never sleeps. Sees enemies everywhere. The money didn't make him happy. It just gave him more things to worry about. So what's the point? The point is to remember why you wanted the money in the first place. Not just more and more and more until you forget everything else. She stops at a stall, hands her basket to someone behind the counter, and turns to face you properly. Most people forget. They come here with dreams and end up with nothing but ledgers and heartburn. You think about Cornelis, hunched over his desk, ink on his fingers, spectacles slipping down his broken nose, working every hour God sends. Rich, probably, but you've never seen him smile. Quote 116, you say. Anna studies you for a moment. Whatever she sees seems to satisfy her. Quote 117, she says. Quote 118. Then she's gone, disappearing into the crowd, and you're standing there with the taste of herring still on your lips, wondering what just happened. You spend the rest of the day walking. Dam Square, the heart of everything. The new town hall rises on one side, so grand it looks like it belongs to a king instead of a republic of merchants. They finished it a few years ago, Cornelis told you once. Marble floors, bronze maps of the world set into the stone, every inch of it designed to tell visitors that this city matters, that the people who run it are important, that money is just as good as royal blood, maybe better. The original dam was built here, back when Amsterdam was just a fishing village, where the Amstel met the sea. People built a dam, called the place Amsterdam, and from that simple beginning, all of this. You stand in the square and watch people stream past, merchants in their black coats, sailors just off the ships, walking unsteadily after months at sea, women shopping, baskets on their arms, children running between legs, a dog chasing a cat chasing a rat, A street performer juggling balls near the weighing house, a small crowd gathered around him, coins occasionally landing in the hat at his feet. 20 languages, they say. You can hear at least 6 without moving from your spot. Dutch, obviously. German. French. Something that sounds like Portuguese. Yiddish from a group of men in dark clothes with long beards. And something else. Maybe from one of the ships. Words you can't even begin to identify. All of them here. All of them making lives in this impossible city. You think about all the people who came before you. The refugees from Antwerp after the Spanish took over. Anna's father was one of them. The Jews fleeing the Inquisition in Portugal. The Huguenots escaping persecution in France. All of them washing up on these shores, looking for somewhere they could just exist without someone trying to kill them for their beliefs. Amsterdam took them in. Not out of pure kindness, probably. The merchants here knew that refugees brought skills and money and connections. But still, the door was open when other doors were closed. That counts for something. The sun starts to sink and you realise you're tired in a way that has nothing to do with physical work. Your mind is full. Too many sights, too many sounds, too many new things to process. You make your way back toward the Jordan as the lamplighters start their rounds. The bridges over the canals cast long shadows on the water. You stop on one of them, leaning against the railing, watching the city settle into evening. The bridges here are different from anything you knew back home. Some of them lift up on counterweights, letting boats pass underneath. You've seen the bridge keepers working them, raising and lowering the spans with a kind of casual skill that must have taken years to develop. They say a good bridge keeper can do it with one finger. You're not sure if that's true, but you've seen them do it without breaking a sweat. Boats drift past beneath you, some carrying cargo, others carrying families heading home. A man rows slowly, his wife sitting at the stern with a child on her lap. They don't look rich. Their boat is small and worn, but they look peaceful, content in a way that has nothing to do with money. A washerwoman is still at work on one of those floating platforms, scrubbing cloth in water that can't possibly make anything clean. You've seen them all over the city, these women on their little wooden stages doing laundry in the canals like they don't know or don't care what gets dumped in there. But she's doing it anyway, because that's her job, because someone will pay for those clean clothes, because in Amsterdam, everyone has their role to play and she's playing hers. The windmills outside the city walls are visible from here, silhouettes against the fading sky. They never stop turning, those windmills, pumping water, grinding grain, sawing timber. The whole Dutch way of life depends on them. Without the windmills, the water would take everything back. The sea would reclaim what the sea is owed. You think about Anna, about her father who came from Antwerp with nothing and ended up with everything except happiness, about the warning hidden in her words. Remember why you wanted the money in the first place. Why did you? You left the farm because you wanted more than your father's life, more than the same fields, the same cows, the same small existence. You wanted to matter, to become someone. But what does that actually mean? You don't have an answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But the question is there now, sitting in your chest like a seed that might grow into something someday. The boarding house is quiet when you get back. Friedrich is already asleep. The boy is sitting by the window, looking out at nothing. Peter and Klaas are playing cards in the corner, barely talking. You lie down on your straw, tired but restless. The smell of fish still clings to your clothes. Your legs ache from all the walking, but your mind keeps spinning. Anna, the market, the town hall, the washerwoman on her floating platform, the women in the windows near the Oudkerk, all of it part of the same city. All of it happening at once, every single day. 200,000 people, each one with their own story, their own dreams, their own reason for being here. Tomorrow you'll go back to the warehouse, count cargo, record numbers, learn a little more about how money moves through this place. But tonight, for the first time in a while, you're thinking about something other than work. You're thinking about a girl with dark hair and a basket of cabbages and a warning you didn't know you needed. The church bells ring somewhere in the distance, counting the hours, reminding the city that time passes whether you're paying attention or not. You close your eyes. Sleep comes easier than you expected. In your dreams, you're walking through the fish market again, but this time, Anna is beside you, pointing things out, explaining things you didn't know, laughing at something you said. When you wake in the morning, you can't remember the words, but you remember the feeling, and that's enough for now. You find Anna again on a Wednesday, not at the market, at the warehouse. She's delivering onions just like she said, a cart full of them pulled by a donkey that looks almost as stubborn as she does. Cornelis is arguing with her about the price, which seems to be a regular occurrence based on how neither of them looks particularly upset about it. 3 stuvers per bushel, Cornelis says. 4, Anna says, and you know it's fair. 3.5. 4. These are good onions, best you'll find this time of year. Cornelis sighs, the sigh of a man who knows he's going to lose but has to go through the motions anyway. Quote, 1, 2, 4. Quote, 1, 2, 5. Anna catches your eye as she's unloading the cart. A small smile, nothing more, but it stays with you the rest of the day. She's waiting outside when your shift ends. Quote, 126, she says, falling into step beside you as you head toward the Jordan. Quote, 127, quote, 128, quote, 129. She pulls her shawl tighter against the evening chill. October now, and the air has teeth. Quote, 130. The church near your boarding house. You've passed it 100 times, heard its bells counting the hours, never been inside. Why would I go there? I go to the Norderkerk. The Norderkerk is fine for praying. The Westerkerk is for seeing. She takes your arm, steering you down a side street. Come on, there's something I want to show you. The Westerkerk is bigger than the Norderkerk, newer too. The tower rises up into the fading sky, topped with a crown that you can see from half the city away. Inside, the space opens up in ways you didn't expect. High ceilings, light coming through windows set high in the walls, everything clean and white and simple, the way the Reformed churches always are. Quote 134, Anna says, you look up. The ceiling is painted, not like Catholic churches with their saints and angels and gold leaf everywhere. This is different. Geometric patterns, designs that draw your eye without quite meaning anything, shapes folding into more shapes. Quote 135, Anna says quietly. Quote, it's 36. She's looking up too, her face soft in the fading light. He used to bring me here when I was little, said it was the most beautiful thing he ever helped make. You stand there together looking at the ceiling, and for a moment the city outside doesn't exist. Just this space, this quiet, this girl beside you. Quote, 138. Quote, 139. She shrugs, but there's something sad in it. Always the money. He could make more selling vegetables than building churches. So that's what he did. A pause. I think he regrets it sometimes. You can't hold a vegetable the way you can hold a brick. Can't point to a building and say, I made that. You think about your own father back on the farm, the fields he planted, the animals he raised, work that left something behind, even if it wasn't grand. even if nobody would remember it. What do you leave behind, counting cargo in a warehouse? Outside, the city is settling into evening. The lamplighters are making their rounds. Somewhere nearby, someone is playing a violin, the notes drifting through the cold air like something half-remembered. Anna walks you home, or you walk her home. It's not entirely clear who's leading, and maybe that's the point. She lives in a house on the Bloemgracht, the flower canal, in a neighbourhood that's a little nicer than yours, but not by much. Her father came up in the world, she told you, but he never moved to the Grand Canals, didn't see the point. What would he do with all those rooms? "This is me," she says, stopping outside a narrow house with a bell gable and a window box full of something that might be herbs. "Thank you for walking with me. Thank you for showing me the church," she smiles, different from her market smile, softer. "There's more to this city than warehouses and Ledgersvillum, don't forget that." Then she's gone, the door closing behind her, and you're standing in the street like an idiot. The cold finally registering now that she's not beside you. You walk home slowly, taking the long way along the Prinsengracht. The city feels different tonight. Quieter maybe. Or maybe you're just paying attention to different things. The way the candlelight flickers behind curtained windows, the sound of the water lapping against the stone edges of the canal, a boat passing slowly, the oarsman's breath visible in the cold air. You pass a building you've passed 100 times before. Tonight, for the first time, you notice the symbols carved above the door. Hebrew letters. This is a Jewish neighbourhood, you realise. One of several in the city. Back home, Jews weren't allowed. Period. Your father used to talk about them like they were monsters from old stories. But here they live right next to everyone else. Go to their own churches, which they call synagogues, run businesses, raise families, walk the same streets you walk. The city doesn't care who you pray to. That's what someone told you once. The city only cares whether you pay your taxes and keep the peace. Everything else is your own business. It's strange when you think about it. People killing each other all over Europe because they believe different things about God. And here, in this swamp city, everyone just lives, side by side. Portuguese Jews and French Protestants and German Lutherans and Dutch Reformed and even some Catholics, hiding in attic churches that everyone knows about but pretends not to see. Tolerance, that's the word. Not love, exactly. Not acceptance, just tolerance. The agreement to leave each other alone. Maybe that's not nothing. Maybe, in a world where people burn each other for believing the wrong things, tolerance is actually everything. You heard a story once from old Paulus at the warehouse about a Catholic family who lives in the attic of a building near the Amstel. They hold mass up there, with a priest who comes and goes through the back door. Everyone in the neighbourhood knows. Nobody says anything. The law says it's illegal, but the law looks the other way. As long as nobody makes a fuss, that's Amsterdam for you. The rules say one thing, the people do another, and somehow it works. Your boarding house is warm when you get back. Someone started a fire in the common room downstairs, and a few of the residents are gathered around it talking quietly. You join them for a while, listening more than speaking. Friedrich, the old German, is telling a story about his hometown. Somewhere in the Palatinate, you gather. Destroyed in the wars that have been tearing through the German lands for decades now. His whole family gone, his whole world gone. He came to Amsterdam because there was nowhere else to go. Quote 146, he says, his Dutch still rough after all these years. Quote 147. He shrugs. Quote 148. The boy in the corner is listening too. You've learned his name by now. Peter. Not the carpenter Peter, a different one. He's from somewhere in the south near the Spanish border. Doesn't talk about why he left. Everyone here is running from something. or towards something, or both at once. That's what Amsterdam is. A city of people who couldn't stay where they were, who needed a place that would take them in without asking too many questions. You think about Anna's father, leaving Antwerp after the Spanish came, about the Jews who came from Portugal, escaping the Inquisition, about Friedrich and young Pieter and all the others, washing up on these shores because the doors here were open when every other door was closed. And you, a farm boy from Gelderland, running from a life that felt too small. Are you so different? The fire crackles. Someone adds another log. The warmth spreads through the room like something alive. You think about the painter you saw last week, near the Oude Kerk, set up in the street with his easel and his brushes, capturing the scene in front of him, the light on the water, the shapes of the buildings, the people passing by. You stop to watch for a while, the way his hand moved quick and sure, the way the image appeared on the canvas like magic, like something being called into existence from nothing. Colours blending into colours, shadows taking shape, a whole world emerging from paint and cloth. This city is full of painters. You've noticed that. They're everywhere, it seems, capturing everything. Rich merchants commissioning portraits to hang in their canal houses. Groups of soldiers posing together in their finest uniforms. Still lifes of flowers and fruit and dead game birds arranged just so. Scenes of ordinary life, taverns and kitchens and markets, frozen in oil and canvas. Someone told you that there are more paintings made in Amsterdam in a single year than in all of Italy in a decade. You don't know if that's true, but it feels true. Art everywhere, images everywhere. This city that can't stop looking at itself. The painter by the Oude Kerk caught you watching and grinned. You want to buy it when I'm done, you laughed. I can't afford it. Nobody can. That's why I do commissions for the merchants. He kept painting while he talked, never taking his eyes off the scene. This one's just for me, for practice, for the joy of it, for the joy of it. You've been thinking about that phrase ever since. When was the last time you did something just for the joy of it? Not for money, not to get ahead, just because it felt good, because it made you happy. On the farm there used to be moments like that. Swimming in the creek on hot summer days, lying in the grass watching clouds, helping your mother in the kitchen, not because you had to, but because you wanted to be near her. Here, everything is about money, about getting more of it, about climbing the ladder from dock worker to warehouse clerk to, someday, maybe merchant. Every hour calculated, every effort measured against what it might return. Is that what Anna meant? About people forgetting why they came? You climb the stairs to your room, the straw's the same, the fleas are the same. Friedrich is already snoring. Young Peter is curled up by the wall, silent as always. But something feels different tonight. Some question stirring in your chest that you can't quite name. Outside, the Westerkerk bells ring. That same tower you stood under with Anna looking up at the painted ceiling. The bells count the hour, 9, 10. The sound carries across the rooftops, across the canals, into the cold October night. You think about the painter, working for the joy of it. You think about Anna's father, building churches with his own hands. You think about all the people who came here with nothing and made something, and whether what they made was worth what they lost along the way. Heavy thoughts for a Wednesday night, but they're there now, and they won't go away. Your mother used to say that God puts questions in your heart when you're ready to hear the answers. You never quite believed her. But maybe lying here in the dark, you're starting to understand what she meant. Not answers, not yet, but questions, real ones, the kind that matter. That's something at least. The fire downstairs is dying. You can hear it crackling its last. The room is getting colder, but your blanket is warm and tomorrow is another day, and the city is out there waiting, full of secrets you haven't discovered yet. Anna said there's more to show you. Parts of Amsterdam you won't find on your own. You'd like that. You'd like that very much. There's a warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with the blanket. A feeling that something is changing, or has already changed, and you're only now starting to notice. The city that seemed so terrifying when you first arrived, so overwhelming and foreign and cold, is starting to feel like somewhere you might actually belong. Not because it's easy. It's not easy. The work is still hard. The fleas still bite. The smell of the canal still hits you fresh every morning like something died in the night. But there are people here now. Real people, not just faces in a crowd. Anna, Joost, Bets at the cook shop, old Paulus at the warehouse, even Cornelis in his strange ink-stained way. They know your name. They look for you when you're not there. They're starting to matter. Maybe that's what home is. Not a place, not buildings or streets or canals. Just the people who care whether you come back. Your mother would understand that. She was always saying that home was wherever family was. You thought she meant blood family, brothers and sisters and parents and cousins. But maybe she meant something bigger than that. Maybe she meant the family you find along the way. Your eyes close. The bells have stopped ringing. The city settles into sleep around you. 200,000 dreams unfolding in the dark. Yours is simple. A church ceiling, a girl's smile, the feeling of standing somewhere beautiful with someone who sees it too. That's enough for tonight. That's more than enough. Tomorrow you'll see her again probably, at the warehouse or the market or somewhere in between. You'll find some excuse to talk. She'll say something that makes you think. The world will keep turning, the ships will keep sailing, the money will keep changing hands. But right now, in this moment, everything is quiet. Everything is exactly where it should be. Sleep comes easy when you stop fighting it. Let it come. November brings the cold. Not the crisp autumn cold you've gotten used to, but something deeper. Something that crawls into your bones and sets up residence. The kind of cold that makes you understand why the Dutch drink so much Genever. Why they huddle around fires and pile blankets on their beds and wear wool against their skin even though it itches like mad. The canals start to freeze. It happens slowly at first. Ice at the edges, thin and fragile, then thicker still. One morning you wake up and the boats aren't moving. They're stuck where they stopped, locked in place by white sheets of frozen water. The city changes when the canals freeze. The boats that normally carry cargo now sit useless. Goods have to move by cart instead, which means the streets are more crowded than ever. Wheels stuck in frozen ruts, horses slipping on icy cobblestones, everyone moving slower, bundled heavier, breath visible in the air. But there's something else too. Something you didn't expect. People start skating, you've never seen anything like it. Blades strapped to shoes, men and women and children gliding across the frozen canals like it's the most natural thing in the world. Racing each other, spinning, laughing. The ice that stopped commerce became a playground overnight. Anna takes you to watch one evening after work. You stand on the Prinsengracht bridge, looking down at the frozen canal below. Torches have been set up along the edges, casting flickering light across the ice. People move through the darkness like ghosts, their blades cutting clean lines in the surface. Quote 153, Anna says. She's bundled in a heavy wool shawl, her breath making small clouds in the air. When he was young, back in Antwerp. He said the canals there froze just the same. Did he teach you? She shakes her head. No time. Always working. A pause. Maybe that's why he regrets it. All the things he didn't do because he was too busy doing other things. You watch a couple glide past hand in hand, moving together like they've been doing this their whole lives. The woman laughs at something the man says, and the sound carries across the ice bright and clear in the cold air. Quote, 158. You admit. Quote, 159. Quote, 160. Anna says. Then she blushes, just a little, like she said more than she meant to. Quote, 161. You smile. Quote, 62. Below you, a boy falls hard on the ice. His friends laugh and help him up. He brushes himself off and tries again, wobbling forward, arms out for balance. Everyone falls, you think. The ones who get up are the ones who matter. The nights are longer now. Darkness comes early and stays late. By the time you finish at the warehouse, the sun is already gone, and you walk home through streets lit only by the occasional lamp and whatever light spills from windows. This is when the city shows its other face. During the day, Amsterdam is commerce and bustle and life. At night, it's something else. Shadows move in alleys. Voices call out from doorways. The taverns spill drunken men into the streets, and not all of them are friendly. The night watch patrols, but they can't be everywhere. You've seen them, groups of men with lanterns and clubs, making their rounds through the neighbourhoods. They're supposed to keep order, supposed to protect people, but the city is big, and the dark is bigger. You've heard stories. Everyone has. A merchant robbed near the Wag, beaten so badly he couldn't work for months. A woman who disappeared walking home alone, found 3 days later in the harbour. A sailor stabbed over a gambling debt, left bleeding in an alley while the killer walked away. The law exists. Courts exist. They hang people sometimes in Dam Square for crimes bad enough to warrant it. But you can't hang someone you never catch. And in a city this big, this crowded, this full of strangers passing through, catching anyone is harder than it sounds. Joost warned you about this back when you first arrived. Stay in groups after sunset. Keep your money hidden. Don't make eye contact with strangers. Don't go down streets you don't know. You've been careful. Mostly. One night, walking home alone because you stayed late to finish some figures for Cornelis, you hear footsteps behind you. Heavy, fast, getting closer. Your heart jumps. Every story you've heard about robberies and beatings floods through your mind at once. You walk faster. The footsteps walk faster too. You turn a corner. They turn the corner. You break into a run. The footsteps run. You're almost to your street, almost to safety, when you slam directly into someone coming the other way. You both go down in a tangle of limbs and cursing. "What the hell?" says a familiar voice. It's Joost, standing over you, looking annoyed, rubbing his shoulder where you crashed into him. You look back. The footsteps have stopped. Whoever was following you has melted back into the darkness. Quote, 164. Joost asks, helping you up. Quote, 165. Quote, 166. He looks past you, into the dark. Quote, 167. He shrugs, but there's something serious in his face. You shouldn't be out alone this late, I've told you. I know, I lost track of time. Don't. He starts walking and you fall in beside him, grateful for the company. This city takes care of people who take care of themselves. Everyone else. He shakes his head. They end up in the canal, or worse. You don't ask what worse means. You don't want to know. The boarding house is warm when you get back. Friedrich has the fire going and someone has made soup. Not good soup, but hot, and that's enough on a night like this. You eat in silence, still shaken, thinking about those footsteps in the dark. Later, lying on your straw, you can't sleep. The city that seemed like opportunity when you arrived has a shadow side. You've always known that in theory. The VOC ships that bring spices also bring other cargo. The money that builds these beautiful canal houses comes from places where people aren't free. The same merchants who commission paintings and donate to churches also fund wars on the other side of the world. Old Paulus told you about it once, at the warehouse. Documents he's seen over the years, manifests that list people the same way they list pepper and cloth. Numbers on a page, no names, just numbers. He didn't look you in the eye when he said it, just kept working, his old hands sorting through papers, his voice flat and quiet. This is how it is, he said. This is how it's always been. The money comes from somewhere. Better not to ask where. You asked anyway. He didn't answer. That's the thing about Amsterdam. The tolerance, the freedom, the refuge it offers to people fleeing persecution. All of it is real, and all of it exists alongside the other thing. The ships, the cargo, the numbers on the manifests. You think about all the beautiful things this city has built. The churches and the town hall and the Grand Canal houses with their stepped gables reaching toward the sky. The paintings in every home, the books being printed, the ideas being discussed in coffee houses and taverns. A golden age, people call it. And it is. It really is. But gold has to come from somewhere. Wealth has to come from somewhere. And when you start asking where, the answers aren't always pretty. Both things are true at the same time, and you have to live with that. Or you have to leave. Most people don't leave. Most people learn not to look too closely. They build their lives and raise their families and pretend the shadow isn't there. Can you do that? Can you build something good on a foundation you're not sure about? You don't know. You really don't. Anna comes to the warehouse 2 days later with another delivery. Onions again. This time you help her unload, and afterward you walk together along the frozen Kattenburg harbour, your breath making clouds, your hands buried in your pockets against the cold. You're quiet today, she says. Thinking. About what? You're not sure how to answer. About the footsteps in the dark. About the numbers on Paulus's manifests. About the gap between what the city says it is and what it actually is. The cold, you say instead. Just the cold. She doesn't believe you. You can tell, but she doesn't push. My mother makes soup on nights like this, she says. Real soup. With meat and vegetables and bread to dip in it. You should come for dinner sometime. Your father wouldn't mind? My father minds everything, but he'll like you. She smiles, small and private. You work hard. He respects that. And my mother has been asking about the young man I keep mentioning. Your heart does something strange in your chest. You've mentioned me? Once or twice. The smile widens just a bit. Don't let it go to your head. Dinner with Anna's family, meeting her parents. The thought warms something in your chest that the cold can't touch. But it terrifies you too. What if they don't like you? What if you say something stupid? What if her father looks at you and sees exactly what you are? A farm boy with dirt still under his fingernails, not good enough for his daughter. Quote 188. You say anyway, because fear is no reason not to try. Quote Saturn 1. 89. She squeezes your arm through your coat, quick and light, and then she's gone, heading back toward the Bloemgracht with her empty cart rattling behind her. You stand there for a moment, watching her go. The city is complicated. The money is complicated. The whole world is complicated in ways you're only beginning to understand. But some things are simple. A girl's smile, an invitation to dinner, the warmth of knowing someone wants you around. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you don't have to solve everything. Maybe you just have to find the good things and hold on to them while you figure out the rest. The ice creaks beneath your feet as you walk back toward the warehouse. Somewhere in the harbour, a ship is frozen in place, its mast reaching up into the grey sky like fingers pointing at heaven. 5,000 ships in this harbour, they say. Half of Europe's fleet. All of them stuck now, waiting for the thaw that won't come for months. The city slows down in winter. Everything slows down. But life goes on. The market's still open, even if fewer people come. The taverns stay warm. The fires keep burning. People find ways to survive, the same way they always have. That's what Amsterdam is, really. Survival. Adaptation. Making the best of whatever the world throws at you. You came here with nothing but a name and a willingness to work. Now you have a job, friends, a girl who makes you want to be better than you are. Not bad for a farm boy from Gelderland. The Westerkerk bells ring in the distance. You've learned to tell time by their sound. Late afternoon now, a few more hours of daylight, then the long dark of winter night. But tonight you'll eat dinner at Bet's cookshop. Tomorrow you'll see Anna at the market. Saturday you'll meet her family. The shadow is still there. The questions haven't gone away, but neither have you. The cold bites at your face as you walk. Your fingers are numb despite the gloves. Your breath makes clouds that disappear as soon as they form. Winter in Amsterdam. Frozen canals and frozen ships and frozen everything. And somewhere beneath all that ice the water still flows. Patient. Waiting. Spring will come. The ice will melt. The ships will sail again. Until then, you wait. Everyone waits. But the waiting is easier when you're not alone. That's the secret, maybe. The one thing that makes all the difference. Not being alone. Your soft bed and your warm room and your life without frozen canals and footsteps in the dark. You have no idea how lucky you are. How easy it is to forget that most of human history looked more like Willem's world than yours. But that's okay. That's why stories exist. To remember, to imagine, to understand, just for a moment, what it was like to be someone else in some other time. The fire is still burning when you get back. Friedrich is telling another story from his homeland. The boy is listening, actually listening, which he doesn't always do. You join them by the fire. Let the warmth seep into your cold bones. Friedrich's story is about a river in his homeland, a place where he used to fish with his father when he was young. The words come slowly, his Dutch mixing with German when he forgets himself, but the meaning is clear. He's talking about loss, about the things we leave behind and can never go back to. The boy listens without moving. You wonder what he's left behind, what brought him here, what he dreams about when he finally falls asleep. We're all carrying something, you think. Every single person in this city. Ghosts and memories and hopes and fears, bundled up and carried from wherever we started to wherever we're going. Outside, the city is dark and frozen and dangerous. Inside, there's light. There's warmth. There's the sound of Friedrich's voice and the crackle of the fire and the quiet breathing of people who have nowhere else to be. That's enough. For tonight, that's enough. The bells ring somewhere. You don't count them. It doesn't matter what time it is. Time moves differently in winter. Slower, heavier, like the frozen canals. Everything waiting for spring. Your eyes grow heavy. The fire's warmth has found its way into your bones finally. Friedrich's story winds down to silence. Someone adds another log to the fire and sparks drift upward like tiny stars. You think about Saturday, about Anna, about soup and her parents and the terror and the hope all mixed together. You think about the footsteps in the dark and how they stopped when Joost appeared. About having people who look out for you, about not being alone. Sleep pulls at you, gentle now, no longer something to fight. The world outside is cold and complicated and full of shadows. But in here, right now, everything is simple. Warmth, light, the sound of breathing. Let it carry you down. Let it carry you home. Saturday comes too fast and too slow at the same time. You've borrowed a clean shirt from Used, washed your face 3 times. Try to do something with your hair, though there's only so much you can do with hair like yours. You look at yourself in the small cracked mirror by the boarding house door and see a young man who's trying too hard. Good enough. It'll have to be good enough. Anna's house on the Bloemgracht looks different in the early evening light. Smaller somehow, more real. The window box you noticed before has herbs in it. You can see now. Rosemary and thyme, brown and dormant in the cold, but still there, still alive. You knock before you can talk yourself out of it. The door opens, and there's Anna, wearing a dress you've never seen before. Blue, like deep water. Her hair is down, which you've also never seen. She looks like someone you almost recognise, but not quite. Someone softer, someone not carrying cabbages. "You came," she says. "Did you think I wouldn't?" "I thought you might lose your nerve." She's smiling. Quote 193. The house is warm. A fire burning in the front room. Candles on the table. The smell of something cooking, rich and savoury, making your stomach remember that you haven't eaten since morning. Anna's mother appears from the back room, a round woman with grey streaks in her dark hair and Anna's same direct gaze. She looks you up and down like she's appraising a delivery of onions. Quote 194, she says. Not a question. Quote 195, quote 196. She says your name like she's testing it, seeing if it fits. Sit. The soup is almost ready. You sit. The table is set for 5. Anna and her mother. 2 younger girls who must be her sisters, maybe 12 and 14, watching you with barely concealed curiosity, and an empty chair at the head of the table. Father will be down in a moment, Anna says. He's finishing something in his study. You nod. Try to look calm. Fail completely. The sisters giggle. Anna shoots them a look that could freeze the canals all over again. Then footsteps on the stairs, and Anna's father enters the room. He's smaller than you expected. Wiry, with strong hands and a face that's seen weather. Grey hair cropped short, eyes that miss nothing. He takes his seat at the head of the table without speaking, looks at you for a long moment, and then nods. Quote 200, he says, the same way his wife said it. Testing. Quote 201, quote 202, quote 203, quote 204, quote 205. Another long look. You feel like a manifest being reviewed for errors. Quote 206, the old man says. Quote 207. He picks up his spoon. Quote 208, quote 209, quote 210. You think about it. Really think. Quote 211. You glance at Anna just for a second. Quote. The old man's face doesn't change, but something shifts behind his eyes. Some judgment being made. He says to his wife. And just like that, the interrogation is over. The soup is better than good. It's the best thing you've eaten since you left home. Real meat, not the gristly scraps you get at Bet's place. Vegetables that taste like they were grown by someone who cared. Bread that's soft inside and crusty outside, perfect for dipping. You eat until you're full, and then you eat a little more, because Anna's mother keeps refilling your bowl and you don't know how to say no. You're too thin, she says, ladling more into your bowl. Don't they feed you at that boarding house? Not like this, ma'am. She makes a sound that might be disapproval or might be satisfaction. Hard to tell with mothers. The conversation flows easier after the food. Anna's sisters ask you questions about the warehouse, about the ships, about what it's like to work on the docks. The older one, named Margarita, has a serious face and wants to know practical things. The younger one, Sophie, has Anna's spark and wants to know about adventure. You tell them stories, some of them even true. The older one wants to know about the VOC ships and where they go. You tell her about the manifests you've seen, the port names that sound like music. Batavia, Coromandel, Ceylon. Places so far away you can barely imagine them. The younger one wants to know if you've ever seen a real pirate. Quote, 2:18, you say. Quote, 2:19. Quote, 2:20. Quote, 2:21. Anna's father speaks up for the first time since the soup was served. I knew men who sailed to the Indies, good men. Most of them didn't come back. He's not looking at you exactly, more like looking through you, at something far away. Quote, 223. The table goes quiet. Even the younger sister stops fidgeting. Quote, 24. The old man continues. Quote, 225. He finally looks at you directly. Quote, 226. Quote, 227. Quote, 228. He goes back to his bread and the moment passes, but you feel the weight of what he said, the approval buried in the warning, the way he included you without quite saying it, among men who have something to live for. Anna catches your eye across the table. She's smiling in that way she has, like she knows something you don't. After dinner, the sisters clear the table and Anna's mother shoos everyone out of the kitchen so she can clean. The old man retreats to his study. Anna walks you to the door. That went well, she says. Did it? I couldn't tell. Your father barely said anything. That's how you know it went well. When he doesn't like someone, he talks the whole time. Questions and more questions. He asked you maybe 5 things and then let you be. She touches your arm. He likes you. How can you tell? The soup. Mother only makes the good soup for people father approves of. Everyone else gets the regular soup. You laugh. You can't help it. All that worrying, and the answer was in the soup the whole time. Quote, 2:35, you say. Quote, 2:36. Quote, 2:37. But she lets you go anyway, opening the door to the cold night air. Quote, 2:38. Quote, 2:36. You walk home slowly, taking the long way along the frozen canals. The stars are out tonight, more than you can count, scattered across the sky like spilled salt. The city is quiet under its blanket of ice. Smoke rises from chimneys, candles flicker in windows. 200,000 people, sleeping or eating or talking or dreaming, all of them living their lives in this impossible place. A cat crosses your path, hunting something in the shadows. You hear music from somewhere, a fiddle playing something slow and sad. A couple walks past arm in arm speaking French, not noticing you at all. You've been here almost 5 months now. It feels longer. It feels like you've always been here. Like the farm boy who walked through the Haarlemmer port gate was someone else entirely. Someone younger. Someone who didn't know anything about anything. You remember that first day. The terror and the wonder mixed together. The smell of the city hitting you like a wall. The crowds and the noise and the feeling that you'd made a terrible mistake. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. And choices lead to other choices, and here you are. You know things now. Not everything. Not even close. But enough to get by. Enough to be useful. Enough to matter. At least a little. To at least a few people. The frozen canal creaks beneath your feet as you cross a bridge. Somewhere out there, past the walls, past the windmills, past the fields that stretch toward the horizon, spring is waiting. The ice will melt. The ships will sail. The whole machine will start up again, moving goods and money and people around the world. And you'll be part of it. A small part, maybe. A single thread in a tapestry so big you can't see the edges. But a part nonetheless. What kind of man do you want to be? The question surfaces again. The the same one that's been circling in your head for weeks now. You still don't have a complete answer. Maybe you never will. Maybe the answer keeps changing as you do. But you know some things. You want to be the kind of man who works hard and deals fairly, who remembers where he came from without being trapped by it, who sees the shadows in the world but doesn't let them swallow the light. You want to be the kind of man Anna's father would approve of, the kind of man your own father would be proud of, even if he never says it. You want to build something, not just money, though money matters. Something more than that. A life that means something. A life with people in it who matter. The boarding house is quiet when you get back. Friedrich is asleep, snoring softly. Young Peter is curled in his corner. The fire's burned down to embers, but there's still warmth in the room. Still light, just barely. You lie down on your straw, tired in a good way. Full of good food and good company and something that feels like hope. Tomorrow is Sunday. Church in the morning, then the whole day free. Maybe you'll walk by the Vismarkt again. Maybe you'll stand on a bridge and watch the skaters. Maybe you'll just sit by the fire and do nothing at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here, that you made it, that you're still making it one day at a time. The city breathes around you. The ancient rhythm of tides and trade, of people coming and going, of lives beginning and ending and beginning again. You're part of that rhythm now, one heartbeat among thousands. Outside, the stars are still burning, the canals are still frozen, the windmills are still turning, somewhere out there in the dark, pumping water, keeping the sea at bay. This city that shouldn't exist. This place built on wooden sticks hammered into a swamp, held together by stubbornness and greed and something else, something harder to name. Hope, maybe, or just the refusal to give up. 200,000 people, all of them fighting the same fight. Against the water, against the cold, against everything that says this place can't work, shouldn't work, won't last. But it does work. It has lasted, and you're part of it now. Your eyes grow heavy. The day catches up with you all at once. The nervousness of meeting Anna's family, the relief of being accepted, the long cold walk home under the stars. Sleep pulls at you, gentle now, welcoming. You think of Anna in her blue dress, her smile across the table, the way she said same time next week like it was the most natural thing in the world. You think of the old man and his 5 questions, the good soup, the approval that came in silence instead of words. You think of the year ahead, spring and summer and another autumn and another winter, ships sailing and returning, money changing hands, the endless dance of commerce that keeps this city alive. You think of Joost, who saved you without knowing it, just by being in the right place at the right time, of Betts and her cookshop, of old Paulus and his quiet wisdom, of Cornelis with his ink-stained fingers and his endless demands for accurate numbers. All of them part of your life now, all of them people you'd miss if they were gone. You think of your mother back on the farm who taught you to read and told you that God puts questions in your heart when you're ready for the answers. Maybe she was right. Maybe the questions are the point. And you think of Anna, her blue dress, her smile, the way she makes you want to be better than you are, and somewhere in all of that, you, growing, learning, becoming whoever you're going to become. The fire crackles its last. The room goes dark except for the faint glow of embers. Somewhere outside a dog barks once and then falls silent. You're warm, you're safe, you're not alone. That's everything. That's more than enough. Now it's time for you to rest too, wherever you are, whatever time it is, whatever weight you're carrying from your own day in your own world. Let it go. Let it all go. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You don't need to be anywhere or do anything or worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will come whether you worry about it or not. That's the only guarantee in life. The sun will rise. The day will unfold. You'll handle whatever it brings because that's what you do. That's what everyone does. One day at a time, one foot in front of the other, until suddenly you look back and realize you've come a long way from where you started. Just breathe. Just be. The canals are frozen, but spring is coming. The night is dark, but the stars are out. The world is complicated, but simple things still matter. Warmth, food, people who care whether you come home. Willem found his place. You'll find yours too. Or maybe you already have, and you just need to remember it. Close your eyes. Let the story fade. Let sleep take you where it wants to go. Good night.